Sorry we're a little bit late. Like I said, we've moved into a room. We're not all remote, so setting the stuff up's been quite exciting. So, how do you do? I'm Rob Gould. I'll be your host for this evening. Quick intro as to who we are, and then we'll get on with the main business of the day. So, we're Mainframers. We're a collection of, I was going to say olds, but we're not all olds. Some young ZOS people. We've got people from IBM, we've got people from third-party vendors. I'm a consultant, so we've got a wide mix of people, and we get together every couple of weeks and we organise things like this. So if you're interested in mainframes, if you'd like to know how they work, if you're interested in something specific, you could always reach out to us and we'll try and set up a session for that. Today's session is about COBOL. We've got three excellent speakers that are going to come and talk to us about different bits of COBOL. I don't know about you, but where I am at the moment, COBOL's a big thing. COBOL to Jav's a big thing. Watson X is a big thing. So there's all sorts of things going on in the COBOL world at the minute. So with no further ado, what slide are we on? So here we go. We've got Erik, we've got Derek, and we've got Roland coming to talk to us. So that'll be cool. Can I have the next one? That's cool. So I've told you what Mainframers is. There we are. I've got more hair than I had in those days, as you can see. And again, please, Beth. Lots of links on there. You'll be able to get hold of this on our Slack site, because most of you will be on our Slack site. So you'll find those links. If you want to come and play, if you want to be on the organisers committee, if you just want to do a presentation, if you could give us a shout, that would be fantastic. We'd be really happy. The more people we can get coming along and playing, the better, as far as we're concerned. So that's cool. And with no further ado, I'm going to hand you over to our first speaker, which is Erik from SEB, who's going to talk to you about COBOL. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Try to see if I can share my screen. Let's see. Can everyone see my screen? Can everyone see my screen? Someone's doing thumbs up. Good. All right. So my name is Erik Weyler, also known as COBOL-ERIK. I'm a mainframe development solution architect, they call it, at SEB. So happy to be here and honored even. I'm sharing the virtual stage with Derek, Britton, and Roland Koo. I mean, how cool is that? They're heroes of mine, and now I'm on the same virtual stage as them. So this shows, where I am professionally. And that's the idea, I guess, with this talk, to inspire people, young people in particular, that COBOL is a good career path. I'm living proof that you can make a career in COBOL. And it all started with this guy, actually. His name is Anders Jäder. He's manager quite high up in the food chain in SEB, and he actually used to play badminton with my uncle, and I play badminton with them. And one day he said, Erik, you should really learn COBOL. And I was like, COBOL? Isn't that a color? I had no idea what he was talking about, but I did try to learn COBOL. And in those days, the way to do that was I found this book online and read it. And that was, basically the training I had. But I applied to the Young IT Professional Program, they call it. I think there were some 800 applicants for 12 positions, I think it was. And I when they reduced the number of applicants, they brought us all in to the offices and had interviews and things. And you were asked to do a presentation of yourself in 5 minutes or whatever. So I jotted down some things that I for preparation, things that I wanted to say for my 5 minutes there. And when I did that, I realized, hey, these things, they rhyme. So on my job interview, I rapped my presentation. So I think that made me stand out, and I actually got the job. So it apparently it worked. I only have 15 minutes now, but I can do some of the rap in the after party if you like. And one of the first things I did, this is just a little bit of fun, but just to show you things you can do with COBOL. One of the first things I did was a Sudoku solver in COBOL. Not necessarily COBOL strength to do things like this, but it is possible. And as you can tell, I mean, you can do a web interface or whatever. You just have the COBOL in the back end. Works really, really well for these kinds of things, and it's very, very fast, of course. So you can have a lot of fun with COBOL. And if you're interested, the code for this is actually on my public GitHub. Nowadays, of course, it's much easier to get some training into COBOL. There are lots of online options. There are probably more than I've found here, but compiled all of these at least. So there's lots of options if you want to try it out now. At the bottom there, you have COBOL Skolan and COBOL Factory and Semstesi. Those three are companies in Sweden that do COBOL trainings. So if you're a company and you want to have some new COBOL developers, you can call up these companies, and they can help you out, have trainings, to get some new people in also. And then of course I have to put up my GitHub there. I have two fairly simple courses in COBOL. A beginner's course that is very easy. You don't have to download anything. You can just do it all in the browser. And one intermediate course. And that one is a little bit harder because you have to download stuff and the instructions are tougher. And also it's in Swedish. So I guess that could make it a little bit harder for you guys. Or more fun, depending on how you see it. And at SEB, we have made our generational shift. We've had, the woman in the middle there is the teacher from COBOL Factory, actually. So we've had help from COBOL Factory to train new COBOL developers. This is the latest cohort. So I think we've been doing this for something like 10 years, about 10 people every year. So that adds up to 100 people. So 100 new COBOL developers, and oftentimes they are in their 20s. So we do get young people in, and I just love it. The enthusiasm of these people it's just amazing. It's so much fun to work with them, and they have new ideas, but they all love COBOL. That's so cool. So this idea that you can't get hold of any young COBOL programmers, it's not true. It's not true. It is true that we don't have the COBOL trainings we should have at university and such. But if you want to bring a new COBOL talent in, you can absolutely do it if you put effort into it. So if you say, doggone it, we're going to have trainings in COBOL, you can do it and bring new people in. And actually, the same goes for assembler programmers. We have quite a lot of assembler at SEB, but we had an assembler academy also. So we got young people doing assembler. So I mean, it can be done, and even system programmers. Our system programmers are also young. So these people are oftentimes younger than I am. So it just goes to show that you can absolutely do it if you want to. And of course, we want to stay relevant in the COBOL space as well. We want to be modern. We want our developers to be happy that they're COBOL developers and that they're working at SEB. So all the time you have to look what's out there. So for example, VS Code, it's an extremely popular editor or IDE. We have to be able to use VS Code for our COBOL and assembler development also. So maybe you recognize the SOA Explorer. It enables you to contact and work with data sets on your mainframe. It looks like if like you had the files on your own hard drive, but you can work directly on the mainframe from within VS Code. So that's cool. Also USS, and you can look at jobs and submit jobs and things like that. And what we've been trying to do is with something I call ZZ, is making the onboarding to VS Code easier. So you pretty much just install the ZZ thing and you get all the configurations and everything for free, and off you go. You have it all there that you need. Some things like configuration for the editor, so it knows where to look for copybooks, things like that. And while we're at it, while we're having this ZZ thing, we might as well ship a few nifty features. Many of those things could be things that you're familiar with from the ISPF environment. So those things, we've been curling our developers in ISPF for a very long time, and we should continue to do that in VS Code, I think. So in ZZ, we bring in lots of fun stuff, like JCL check, for example, using Smart JCL. We've always done that in ISPF. We should of course do that in VS Code as well, and lots of other goodies. At the bottom there, in the integrated terminal in VS Code, we have panels, sort of like in ISPF actually, but these panels are part of ZZ, and those are actually built using GNU COBOL. So I kind of like that. So our COBOL developers should be able to create and maintain these tools, even in a PC environment. So I really like that. I think it's quite cool, actually, if I may say so myself. And should know that mainframe doesn't need to be old and boring and so on. It can be modern. You can do modern things, and it's actually we know it's a safe, reliable, scalable, extremely performant platform, and all of those things are very, very important. But it's also a versatile platform. So that I think maybe we forget sometimes, but you can do lots of things. Just to take one example, this is Neo4j, it's a graph database, and I'm actually running this in ZCX as a Docker container in ZCX on the mainframe. So, I mean, it looks very graphical, but it's still on the mainframe. And of course, it's a good idea to deal with data on the mainframe and visualize it in different ways, because the data is already there. You don't have to push the data somewhere else to do data analysis. You can do cool stuff like this. on platform, which I think is a very good idea. It's much easier to bring the programs to the data rather than the other way around. So I think this is quite cool. You just have to imagine it. If you can imagine it, you can probably do it. And speaking of modernization and stuff like that, or doing cool new stuff on the mainframe, I obviously have to talk about AI. We have at SEB run a very successful MVP together with IBM to bring machine learning scoring models onto the platform and make use of them from within our old COBOL IMS transactions. So this could be programs that's been around for 30 years or whatever, but they can make use of machine learning. And there's hardware and software support to enable this. And at the top right corner there, you see our test application. So you can tell we were able to use machine learning scoring model from within a COBOL program. So you can certainly bridge the old and the new in new fantastic ways. And I think you should remember that you don't have to go to another platform or another language to be able to do these things. And I just have to mention this because we actually had a hackathon this week at SEB, and me and my team were working on this thing, being able to use machine learning from within a COBOL transaction. So what we were trying to do is train a model on user behavior or customer behavior rather. So we have data for why customers were calling us and the state of affairs in the database when they did so. So we could train a model that would figure out why a customer would want to call us. So the agents and the customer service could get an information about why they're calling directly, or even better, the customer could get the information, the AI information in the app. So you press a button and it says, "Oh, you're probably calling about locked pin because you typed in the wrong pin," something like that, or double debit or whatever. So bringing AI all the way, you see it in the app, but it actually is in the back end in the COBOL on the mainframe, which I think is pretty cool. So I hope I was able to inspire you somewhat. You can do cool things in COBOL and on the mainframe. And that was my presentation, I think.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That was very interesting. I thought I like the bit. There are COBOL programmers out there, and you can train them, and people are interested, and I can only agree. So spot on. So now we're going to hand on to Derek, I believe, who's our next man. Derek is going to talk about 15 things you need to know about COBOL. This is going to be a recorded presentation, but Derek is actually online, but he recorded it because he wasn't sure whether we could make it. So if there's any questions after, you can ask Derek right at the end because we're having a Q&A session. So I'm just going to wait for this to get lined up. Do a quick dance for you. I think we're good. We're on.
Hello and welcome everyone. Great to be here. Great to be part of the meeting. This session is entitled 15 in 15 about COBOL. 15 things you need to know about COBOL in 2024. So I'm going to attempt to give you a snapshot of everyone's favorite mainframe computer language using only numbers or stats, 15 of them to be precise. And I'm going to do that in 15 minutes. Or at least I'm going to try. Let's see how we get on, shall we? My name is Erik Britton, by the way. Why should I be doing this? Well, I'm something a COBOL diehard. It's fair to say I've been that way for over 30 years now. I used to write COBOL technology, compilers and such. Now I mainly write about it or talk about it. I also run a group on the topic of modernization on LinkedIn. I wrote a major white paper on COBOL for its 60th anniversary. And I helped set up the COBOL working group in the Open Mainframe project more recently. So you might have seen me talk about COBOL or read one of my articles in various places in the past. Okay, so where are we? COBOL by the numbers. Okay, so the format is very simple. I'll start with each of the numbers, one per slide. I'll go on to explain what each number means by way of giving a sort of state of the nation around COBOL. We don't have time for philosophical debates, I'm afraid, so we'll cut to the chase and give you some hard facts as the basis for this discussion. All right, so what are our numbers then? Well, here they are. Here they are. Without any context, though, they're a bit meaningless. But what I'll say at this stage is that all the information I'm quoting is public domain. It comes originally from places like IBM or the Open Mainframe project or Micro Focus or elsewhere. I'm merely reassembling it in this form in a hope that it will be useful and meaningful for you. I'll refer to some of the references towards the end, but you can Google all of this. Right, let's get cracking, shall we? Our first number is 65, and perhaps no prizes for guessing what this one's for. 65 is the number of years that COBOL has existed. Yeah, that's correct. In September of this year, COBOL will be 65. It will be 65 years since the Codicil Committee first scribbled the acronym COBOL on a piece of paper to label, to agree the name of the language that they were developing at the time for business use. It was finalized as a language in early 1960, and the technology wasn't available until later that year. But 59 is when people talk about the birth of COBOL. Now that technology continues to be refreshed, of course. Hence the metaphorical visual here. Which person in that picture, if not both indeed, is most representative of the language today? And born it was, thanks to the inspired thinking of 3 very pioneering females. So this stat is 3 remarkable women. And while Grace Hopper gets a lot of the credit, and quite rightly so, we must also thank Mary Kay Halls, who lobbied heavily to start with for a business computing language, and it was she who invited Hopper and her ideas to influence what was to become COBOL. The more technical work, the implementation of the language itself, was really the brainchild of Gene Samet. So modern IT owes a huge debt of gratitude to the first Women in Technology project, whose legacy still runs the global economy today. Which brings me neatly on to how we might measure the impact of that, or scale of that. The size of the COBOL world. Well, you know, a convenient way to measure it, of course, would be to count every line of production code out there written in COBOL, which I'm afraid is impossible. But what we can do is estimate based on representative samples, representative market samples that we've received. And that's what both the Open Mainframe project did and Micro Focus did separately in 2021, I believe. They arrived at slightly different conclusions. The Open Mainframe project arrived at a 250 billion line of code estimate. The Micro Focus one was significantly higher at 800 billion lines of code. Either way, and you can average them out, what it tells us is that COBOL is not disappearing fast, like many have suggested. If anything, based on the previous estimate from Gartner in the 90s, which was 220 billion, if anything, it tells us that the trajectory is going up and not down in terms of the number of lines of code out there, which is significant. A glimpse as to why there's so much of it might point to this stat, which is part of that original survey, where IT leaders are talking about the strategic importance of these applications to their business. They're important, so they keep them. They keep evolving them. They keep adding to them. Kind of makes sense. Enduring business value is a very good reason, after all, to keep hold of things. That's 92% of owners see their applications as strategic. And if your applications really matter and they have strategic importance, then it holds that you want to ensure they're running on the best possible, highly reliable, high performance hardware to ensure that strategic value is delivered day in, day out. So enter stage left, the IBM mainframe, the V series, 90% of which are running COBOL, according to a variety of sources, including IBM. It makes sense. This guy seems to be absolutely delighted to have his. Which makes the next stat perhaps also unsurprising. Little wonder then the most proven, reliable, powerful computer of all, the mainframe, has been the server of choice to deploy the majority of these strategic COBOL systems. COBOL has obviously been synonymous with the mainframe for a long time. It's easy to see why. Now, the mainframe is typically a larger environment, much larger usually in terms of processing capacity and storage than any other of its rivals. So that's perhaps another reason why so much of the world COBOL sits on it. But here you are. Of all the production systems out there running COBOL, 85% of them are on Z. This is where it gets a little bit interesting. In the digital era, of course, no application is an island, nor indeed any platform. So that interconnectedness of all things on the internet requires a variety of integrations and connectivity across the IT landscape. And obviously, deployment use cases are not all the same anyway. So if you delve into the data that these surveys provide, you'll find that over half of all COBOL shops are using more than one unique platform for deployment. Again, which makes sense if you think about it. If you want bomb-proof business critical systems to run COBOL on a mainframe, that makes sense. But some COBOL applications may be nothing of the sort. They may not be must not fail systems and reporting or personnel. Important for sure, but not business critical necessarily, not in the same way. It's hard to justify those use cases on the mainframe. Especially if capacity is tight or costs are a real issue. The fact that COBOL can run basically unchanged anywhere else means that other platforms can be considered and then used to run COBOL equally well. And of course, some organizations just don't even have mainframes. So 58%, the percentage of organizations who run COBOL on at least 2 platforms. Now, remember, going back to the early 60s and its original design, COBOL's vision was to be portable so it could operate and deploy with the same results, no matter what platform you chose. Remember, back then, there wasn't even such a thing as IBM mainframes. So that was still 3 years away in 1960. So it was pretty smart thinking. It also meant that since that time, COBOL has been subsequently engineered to work across 500 recognized unique platforms. And the language is genuinely portable in nature in that sense. That number is 500 because it was an internal study at Micro Focus some time ago when I was working there. We simply stopped counting when we got to 500. We thought 500 was enough as a stat. Obviously, it's a lot higher than that now. Okay, our next stat was, I think from on the scores on the doors, if you like, 55 and 10 originally. Let me explain. How long application owners expect those applications to continue to be used is another important indicator of value. And the surveys again reveal more than half expect the applications that they own to last at least another decade. As the saying goes, COBOL just keeps on running, and a projection of what might happen in the future is a sure indication of ongoing success. Of course, the applications won't run unchanged anyway. They don't just sit there. The business demands that core business systems evolve, and 72% think that as and when they need to change those applications, IT organizations are going to choose the concept of modernization, which is evolving what's already there rather than replacing it, as their best option. So again, a reason why these applications continue to last into the future. And when asked, why are those changes necessary? What does modernization aim to achieve? The most popular answer was to do with embracing cloud computing, which again makes sense. Hybrid IT models are forcing applications across many platforms, COBOL applications in this case, to connect or execute across other platforms. And cloud is the most popular driver for that. And therefore it's driving modernization, according to the surveys, at 43%. Now, making those changes needs a ready supply of professionals who understand COBOL, understand the applications, understand the changes that they need to make, which means ensuring the education and training is available for them. And that's our next couple of stats here. The first one is, well, I was interested to read that there was a Learn COBOL in 1 day free course available online. It's a very low barrier to entry for those looking to move into the space. You would say 1 day to get up and running with COBOL. That's pretty astonishing, and for free. Great news. Now, of course, 1 day is hardly enough time to become proficient at anything. So here's just one more other example of a comprehensive internal training course that's been set up for COBOL trainees, which is 16 weeks long, not 1 day, 16 weeks, run by a large financial services organization in Europe. Now, this story in question is published online. It's listed in the reference later on, where you can actually hear directly from the trainee. This organization, among many others, I'm sure, have established a robust training program for COBOL because of its sheer importance, the importance of the technology to that organization. Other companies separately contract training agencies to support them, while a small number of universities also teach the language. So I guess you can pick up the basics in a day, but there are solid training courses available for the organizations that are building more, shall we say, robust programs to support what the business needs. And of course, many will go online to learn the language too. That perhaps goes without saying, but to get a sense of the demand for online COBOL training, I headed over to the training provider Udemy and simply searched on COBOL courses. You can do the same thing. There are, at the time I looked, 140 courses available today. Some, shall we say, slightly more formal than others. It's a solid indicator that the demand for skills is there, so there's already supply. And in a nutshell, there's a lot of interest in COBOL from both trainees and employers, both in the classroom and online. And that's a good evidence of the buoyancy of the technology and the market. And to cap off our stats, here's a final number for you. That number is 20. It means the top 20. While the debate about COBOL and its viability will doubtless continue, the interesting stats about the amount of code, platform supply, skills and training, That's all well and good. One interesting fact, maybe is the sort of cherry on the cake, is a measurement of the popularity of the language based on internet searches, based on internet traffic. That's compiled by the TOB index. That index says that COBOL has never been out of the top 30 of all programming languages. And in January 2024, sat at number 20 of the most popular languages as measured by internet traffic. So for many who think it's dead or dying, that's a real eye-opener. And in its 65th year, it's still at the astonishing, really. Okay, that's all 15, and we're definitely out of time, so here's your summary. Next time someone questions the value of COBOL, tell them to look at the numbers. Some of the references are here, the rest you can find just by using Google. If you've got any questions, do let me know on LinkedIn. Just send me a message. All right, thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of the show.
30 languages as well, so that's cool. Right, so now we're going to hand over to Roland.
So my name is Roland Koo. I lead the product management team for compilers and languages technologies in IBM, specializing on the mainframe, means ZOS. So I know it's hard to keep up with the two previous very good speakers, but I'm going to try my best anyway. I'm going to be talking about what enterprise COBOL is doing to keep up with the demand for business and digital transformation, and also give you a little positioning of different product sets that we have on the mainframe as well, COBOL products on the mainframe. So we talked about COBOL and mainframe. Actually, the partnership has been there since day one. We're celebrating the mainframe 60th anniversary this year, and COBOL has been there all the way. When you really think about this partnership, it really makes sense, right? Because COBOL runs your most critical business applications. To be able to do that, you will need to have a very reliable and well-performing system that has security and also can scale up. When you do can actually scale up the transactions, the performance at will, and also it's got to be very reliable. So the mainframe IBM Z has the unique advantages of it. Is like basically every year runs 24/7. Right, it's almost 100% of application availability, and it's probably the most secure system out there in the market. And also we have the scalability. Every system is shipped with a lot more, a lot of processor units, so companies can actually expand their computing very easily, when they need the capacity. And also, it can handle large volumes of data and complex workload very efficiently, so the performance is very good, right? So if you look at the COBOL, I think Derek said 250 billion, but I'm using the Reuters survey in 2020 that says 220 billion, but nonetheless, it is pretty well in the ballpark, and it's pretty, it shows the importance of the COBOL language because it's really running, core businesses, right? So it handles about 3 trillion in commerce daily, and powers about 43% of banking systems and 95% of ATM swipes, right? So when I take a look at the internal customers for ZOS, over 85% of customers are running business critical applications that are written in COBOL, right? So COBOL is a very easy language to learn, but the complexity comes when with the business logic, because the application is developed over many decades. So, there's a lot of changes and your business logic changes. So, when people say that, hey, COBOL is too difficult, it's not really about the language, it's really about the business logic. And, whatever language you want to express its business logic in, you still have to deal with it, right? So the complexity always there regardless of the language. So what makes the Z platform unique for running COBOL applications? We actually have a very strong partnership between the compiler team and the hardware team. We know that we cannot increase the clock speed, right, forever. So, so what we did was we actually worked very closely with the hardware design team to put in new hardware features to improve the performance of COBOL workload, because COBOL workload is one of the most important workload or the key workload on the mainframe. So if you look at these past 6 generations of hardware, we actually have put in a lot of features to actually speed up just to target COBOL workload, right? So this is really our roadmap. So moving forward, we're going to be doing the same. So the only thing here is that when you do this kind of speed up, you would need to put in new instructions. So if your existing binaries don't have these new instructions in it, it won't be able to take advantage of these, of these features. So it's very important that when you upgrade your system, you need to look at also upgrade the instructions, basically optimize the applications to take full advantage of it, those hardware. I want to give you a very simple example of what I was talking about. We deal with low-level stuff, but this is a very simple example where we're trying to move a float data type into a packed decimal data type, right? So when you're running V4 earlier, like the old machine or old COBOL, we all use memory-to-memory instructions, right? So with the with EC12, Z14 and 15, we actually have put into new features called the new hardware features called decimal floating point, and we actually use vector instructions. But still, there is a lot of conversion that's required. So we're not very happy with it. So basically, with the new Z16, we actually eliminated all these conversions, and we invented new instructions there, and the result is about 4 times faster your code, right? So this is the kind of things that we do, to make the platform, the best platform to run COBOL applications. So in terms of products, we have the compiler, of course, and we also have a binary optimizer. The binary optimizer, because many COBOL development organizations, they only compile code that needs to be changed, that are changed, right? So if the code is under development or on maintenance, you need to change the source, then you will recompile the application. A lot of the code is actually pretty stagnant over many years. They have not recompiled it at all. So in that sense, then there's no reason to, to do the migration to, to the latest compiler and put in all this investment, because all you need is performance. So we have a product called Automatic Binary Optimizer that just directly optimizes the binary. So you get the performance, a lot faster. So those 2 products are really complementary to each other, and they are pretty unique, in terms of COBOL technology. So then we talk about application modernization, right? Because your business application is developed over many decades, and right now the speed of change to the business, you try to digitally transform your business. There's a lot of new capabilities that you need to put in. So we subscribe to Gartner's suggestion that you should really try to take a look at what you have and then extend the value for your existing applications, rather than rewriting them or replatforming or or rewriting it in a different language. So this is incremental and this is continuous modernization. This is really the best way to go, and this is what we are recommending to our customers. And if you look at the IT budgets, the good news is 2024, the IT budgets actually went up, but unfortunately, inflation also went up, right? So if you look at the net result, it's pretty flat, right? So you really need to make sure that you have, you actually have to use your budget, in a smart way. So in terms of modernization, our recommendation is, first of all, you want to optimize the application performance of the existing application, right? So the way that you do it is you want to stay current with the hardware, the operating system, the middleware, and also, the compiler, right? And then you extend the capabilities, using new features shipped in the languages, or you wanted to, develop new applications that make them work with the old application using the new languages that we put on the platform, like Node, Python, or Go. They all brings in a very rich ecosystem of packages so that to help you deliver faster on there. And basically they also bring in a new perspective of the kind of applications that you can the kind of capabilities you can add to existing applications. And then, we talk about refactoring because historically, when you look at a COBOL application, it is pretty monolithic, right? So sometimes when you make a change in there, you may risk breaking something else because it's so big. So refactoring may not be a bad idea, right? So last year we came up with a new product called Watson X Code Assistant for Z. That is actually to help you refactor your code. And then, if you're running the Node, Python, or Go application somewhere else, maybe it is better for you to bring it onto the platform so that you can take advantage of co-location and optimize the response time and throughput. So here's what we're looking at, right, when we talk about application modernization. In the middle here, you actually can see this is what a typical business critical application look like. It could be written in COBOL, written in PL1, but it uses middleware like CICS, IMS, and then it uses the database or it stores data in vSAN, right? So this is really a very typical, business critical application looks like on your system. When you add capabilities, now we actually can give you a lot more options. It's really a fit for purpose thing that you have to make the best decision as to what you really want to do. If you wanted to develop new, application microservices, then obviously you want to use the more modern languages. You can extend it using the COBOL as well. You can also, extend it with Java and other programming languages, and you can use interlanguage calls to make them all work together. Or you can use Watson X Code Assistant for Z to refactor, and then we can also make the code work together as well. So I wanted to touch on Watson Code Assistant for Z for briefly. It offers four functions, right? One is application discovery. Basically, help you understand your application so that you can actually make decisions to refactor it. So, and then you have a automatic refactoring capability in there. And then you can also, it also has to assist you to translate your code to Java if you need it. And then it has a testing mechanism built in place to verify the translated code, between COBOL and Java. So what people can do here is really to, understand, like get a roadmap of, get a map of your existing application, and then you can decide what you wanted to, to refactor. The refactored code, it doesn't have to all be translated. You can also, you can actually make, let it stay in COBOL if you want to for, performance reasons and things like that. But if you have a need to translate to Java, we have a, an AI assisted, tool to help you do that, right? So really the key here is, for us to make sure that we get everything to be can be interoperable with each other, right? So, a very important feature that we have put into the COBOL compiler, the latest COBOL compiler, is to allow, allow you an easy way to make COBOL interoperate with Java. So you can call COBOL call Java from a COBOL program. You can also call COBOL program from a Java program, right? And all that, doesn't need, any big changes to your code, because we actually ship a utility to help you build a DLL so that you can actually facilitate this call. And in addition to that, we know that a lot of COBOL code is in 31-bit mode, and Java JVM is in 64-bit. So that interoperability is also automatically, hooked up for you. So these are the kind of things that we are working on, in IBM, especially in the development labs. And we'll continue to look into those kind of, interoperability, performance, new features, new language features that we'll always be putting out there, because we know that, COBOL application, are important, and it's actually running, running a very big part of the economy. So with that, here are some resources that you can go to and take a look. So if there's any questions, I think this is Q&A time.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Roland.